Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies and citizens, this joy to the world, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies and citizens, this joy to the world. I bring a message of the truth amidst a world full of lies. I graduated from learning lies to seek the truth. Indoctrinated to be too blind to see the proof. I once was lost, but now I'm found, so I shine light. And everywhere I go is darkness, so I shine bright.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, can y'all hear me? We are back again for episode 15. This is Uncommon Ground, and tonight we want to just say thank you for joining us. You guys could be anywhere in the whole flat world, but you are here with us, and we just want to say this is the show where we show the world the truth of God's creation and how each individual aspect of it relates to his overall plan of salvation. And we also show the world we have to expose the lies that teach against that truth of that creation. And other nights we have special guests. And but I'm joined by my very special guest, who I'm always joined by tonight, Sean from Kingdom in Context. What's going on, brother?
Hey, not much. I'm excited to do the show tonight, Wes. This is gonna be a lot of fun. We're supposed to have a special guest tonight. Unfortunately, their schedule changed. They actually weren't feeling well, so they weren't able to make it tonight. So unfortunately, we'll have to keep that surprise for later when we can reconvene to do that. But I'm excited. We still got some good things to talk about and present, and some announcements just for people to know what's going on in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're still going to have some fun tonight, but yeah, last minute changes of plans here. Open Q&A tonight as well. This is going to be our first episode where we do that. I'm a little nervous, Sean. What about you? I'm excited at the same time, though.
Oh, this will be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm not afraid of Q&As because look, if I don't know the answer, I'll just say I don't know. I'll have to
That's
look into
exactly
that, you know?
right. Yeah, and I'm worried we might have to do that tonight, but nonetheless, we know what we know, and we'd love to show you that. But there's going to be some things we might not be able to completely answer for you or give you the 100% facts on it. But we're going to have some fun with it nonetheless. We got some amazing footage to show you guys of an update on a project we've been working on, and yeah, we want to talk about some of our plans here in the next couple weeks. So we're going to get together, hang out with you guys. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, you guys, if you haven't heard before, we're doing it on our Patreon for Uncommon Ground. It's in the video description below. That's where you can help support the show, but also you can get behind the scenes, if you will, access to what we're doing with our firmament project. And that's kind of the picture I have here to the left of me. And the firmament project is what we're actually building a small scale model of what the Bible describes as creation. So as you can see, you have a little bitty preview right here, but that's just a 3D artist rendering. Thanks to our good brother Eric Rice, who's in the audience tonight. And
shout out Eric.
Our brother Nick is one helping us physically build stuff, and he's actually been making some good progress. So we're going to show you some of the things that he's made tonight. So it's gonna be pretty cool.
That's right.
So if you guys want to see more, because we've actually had meetings with Nick and Eric that we filmed, and those are just on our Patreon, just for the patrons. So if you guys want to see that extra footage and material, in addition to our weekly show, that's where you can go access that.
Yeah, absolutely. Please check it out if you would. I just want to say thank you to Miss Lisa bringing the humor to tonight's chat. She was our opening show tonight, Miss Lisa. I don't know if you saw, but in the chat, she was running some Bible humor, some good, clean, friendly Christian jokes were funny. I appreciate that, Miss Lisa. Everybody else, shout out to Jeremiah 1516. Chris Avery is in the house tonight. Mama Lou Bear, what's going on? Jessica Coy, Yaakov Nazarim, Miss Patty Scott, shout out. And Rose Shiflett, Art Builder CCMC, and Cover to Cover with Jeremy Pierce is here again. We thank you guys for coming back.
Yeah, in fact, here I'm looking at Lisa's jokes right now. This is great.
Put up a couple of them.
Lisa says, "Who's the smartest man in the Bible? Abraham. He knew a lot." Yep, she's got. Here's another one I saw. Did you hear about the 1-800 service they have for atheists now? You dial the number and it rings and rings, but nobody answers.
Oh no!
Ooh, burn.
How about how did Moses make his coffee? He brews.
He brews. Yeah, I've heard that one a little different in the past. I heard it say, "Why? How do you know God loves coffee? Because he brews."
There it is.
Lisa's also saying, how do you make holy water? You take some regular water and boil the devil out of it. Yeah, nice.
Very good.
And there was another one then. Where'd it go?
I like how you warm up the crowd, Miss Lisa. You are
Right.
appreciated. When I say Lisa, you say Mendez. Lisa.
Yeah, it reminds me of what's the there was a really good one I heard about Noah and the angels and the giants and everything. I just can't remember right now. But it sounds like a baseball joke. It's like in the beginning, in the big inning, like the innings of baseball.
I get it.
Inning.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway,
did Adam and Eve ever have a date?
What do you mean?
A lot of people believe it was an apple, but it doesn't say.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, nice. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, we wanted to say a big shout out, big thank you to everyone that's been writing us letters, everyone that's been leaving thoughtful comments on our videos, as well as emailing us. And guys, I do two other channels, and I've got some larger responsibilities going on with other things. So, unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity to answer every single question that comes at us. We also have the social medias. People want to ask questions through there, and I understand, like Wes, I understand people want to know the information, right?
Yes.
But I just, but what I've noticed in doing this for 3.5 years is that it's never just one question. And this is the hard part for us, right? Because we want to engage, we want to interact as much as possible. This is why sometimes I don't even answer questions in the comments in the videos, because I know that people ask a question, but I can tell the way they worded the question and what they know and what they don't know by the way they ask the question, right?
Yes.
Like one of the great little quips of detectives from mystery novels is they say it's not always about finding the right information; it's about asking the right questions. Because that reveals what you actually know. And so, unfortunately, we get so many questions that we realize, oh man, I have to deconstruct that question. That's going to take 5 or 6 back and forths. That's going to take an hour of my day typing, just to deconstruct the question.
Oftentimes.
Then I got to get them to understand how I deconstructed the question to realize why it was a malformed question, so I can lead them to the correct answer with the scriptural proofs, with the understanding, with the conversation. And that just takes that's just one person. Now imagine 40, 50 people a day trying to contact you, and from different social medias and video medias and comments and videos. And guys, and this is the part where it hurts our heart, because it's like we want to be able to engage as much as possible. But think about, like, the more videos you put up, those videos stay up. So then new people find those videos 3 weeks later, but yet you already answered 20 people the week that video came out, but that video is still getting questions.
It is. And then the amount of interaction demanded is exponentially growing. And it's just, and we have lives, we have family. I take care of my elderly grandmother. Sean has a wife. We have jobs. So we don't mean any disrespect to anybody. We love you guys. And that's why we do shows like this. Sean has a wealth of cataloged shows that you guys can go and check out his playlist and dig through his videos for lots of different topics. And we're now 15 episodes deep on Uncommon Ground to hopefully address a lot of these different individual, topics. And so tonight we hope to do the same for a wider variety of questions.
Yeah, there's in fact, someone in the audience is asking if we're talking about this because of her specific question about Paul. Miriam knew. No, it's not about you. We get questions all week, all long, from all different types. Like I said, from the multiple channels that we run, as well as the multiple social medias. I mean, Wes, he has a social media on Facebook where he has 100,000 followers, 114,000 followers, right?
Yes, sir.
The Most High.
That's
think
right.
about how many people contact him. Just think about one person that tries to contact you and engage with you. If you answer them, that's not the only interaction. They want to respond to what you responded, even if it's just a simple, hey, why do you believe that angels are created on day one? Give them chapter and verse, Jubilees 2:2. This is why. And Job 38:7, right? This is why. In our end, we're like, okay, we answered the question, but that wasn't their real question. That was their setup question to what they're trying to really ask you. And so then that becomes this long thread. We just don't have time for it, because that's just one person. Now imagine 20, 30 a day. You just can't get to everybody. So we love everybody. Truly appreciate you. We're sad that we can't get to everybody. That's kind of like why on my channel we do several Q&As. And tonight we thought, since our guest wasn't able to be here, we thought it'd be a great opportunity to do a Q&A with folks. I just want to say, though, that the scriptures, that's not something difficult for me, but like some of the other stuff we talk about on this show, where we go over actual science experiments, we definitely want to talk to the best of our knowledge and ability. but there's some things you may have to give us a few minutes to actually show, to pull up to show you, from online, because it's not like we're not like David Weiss. We don't have like a huge catalog and library of just ready-made slides for every topic on this yet. These dude's a master.
I don't know.
Oh yeah. Wes has got a catalog of memes, but have you ever seen David Weiss do his interviews with?
I've seen a few of them, and he has the background where he just pulls up things automatically. He's on it. Yeah,
dude is on it. Like he knows almost every question that's going to be asked in that short little interview, and he's got multiple different angles to approach it. It's pretty
Dave,
good.
if you're watching, hit us up. We'd love to have you on in the future.
Yeah, we'd love to have him on. He's great. He can promote his Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app that he has, which is a super nice, helpful. I actually have it on my phone.
Me
Do
too.
you have it?
Yeah, I met him in person at the Flat Earth International Conference in 2019 in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first person that I saw that I recognized, right? Ran up to him, asked him if I could have a picture. He then in turn handed me a little card with a link to a free download on it. That was great.
Yeah.
Cool dude.
It's pretty cool. It's everybody can see that. It's really nice. You can actually do some modifications. It leads you to all types of videos that YouTube won't recommend to you. So we'll have them on in the future.
That was one of my favorite parts about the app there. I would recommend it for is that he has, a featured video every day, and then he'll have like a playlist that you can click on and answers to different questions. So he's got a good resource there with that. Yeah. I would say it's worth it.
Yeah. So long and short of it, guys, we love everybody that's interacting, that's wanting to pay attention, want to ask questions. Just keep in mind that I know that your questions is ultimately it's an attempt to interact with us, and we want to interact with you. Just have to consider everything else we're doing and all the work that goes into just for us to turn this camera on and get in front of you and to be semi-prepared to have to do a presentation. So just please be patient with us if we can't get to everybody's questions. Wes, would you like to show our latest?
I would love to, man. I wish I had the words to explain how excited I am about this, how impressed I am. Big shout out to Nick. Eric, thank you for your help. But Nick put together this video of what he's been working on with a test model, a smaller scale, where he's getting ready to work on the big final product, but testing out all the small parts, the functionality of it, and it's beautiful. And I can't wait for you guys to see this.
It is beautiful. Before we show that quick video, would you like me to show the pictures he sent us of the lit?
That'd be great too.
Lit version. Let me see
100%.
Pull that up real quick.
So he's got, several different acrylic domes here. I believe they're acrylic, nonetheless, sort of plastic material.
Yeah.
Clear. And he has one where he's got a layer of where he's etched, I believe. I don't know exactly how, but he's etched these constellations. It looks like he's even maybe worked in there too. Whereas he's got the stars embedded in this one dome where he's lit it. Some LED lights that are just running through that glass-like acrylic beautifully.
Yeah.
It illuminates those little specks.
And it makes you wonder, like, what do the constellations look like from the Father's perspective on the other side?
I know. And I'm really thinking I'm seeing Orion right there, dead center, isn't it?
Yeah.
You see his belt?
I thought the same thing too.
Right. Yeah. That's always been my favorite, most recognizable constellation that I would just see throughout the year.
And then this was the last picture. Oh. Yeah, the last picture he sent there.
That's
and just showing a power source, and it's not gonna. This won't be the final product, but we're gonna play a video to show how much. This is what he made I think last week or 2 weeks ago. He sent us this and said he had been working on that, but it's gonna get even because remember we're doing 7 layers of firmament, guys. Look at this picture behind me to my left. So this is a work in progress right now. He's just going through some of the practical testing as far as what does it take to light it up, what does it take to make it look like there's stars as they're going to be placed in the upper layers of firmament. What would it take? Like how big these things got to be. So this is all the type of conversation that we're trying to put together and do. So I will play this video, and I think you guys will love it.
Check it out. Nick, I am blown away, dude. Super impressed. I
Yes.
praise God that he brought these dudes to us that know what they're doing and are excited about it like we are. And I got to say that Latin Caribbean motif to the music was such a nice touch.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. I think, yeah, like I said, it's a start, right? Because we're gonna eventually have 7 domes. That's what we've talked about. That's the model. That's what episode 1 was about here in season 1. And so that's where we're going to start getting into the showing where the sun and moon are placed, where the stars are placed, how the earth looks inside, from an outside perspective looking in. And I think what we want to do is we want to fill it up with water for the flood. We want to drain it. Essentially, I should say we want to fill with water and then drain it, because that's basically day 2 and 3, right? So we're going to show Creation Week as a part of this, but then also fill it up again for the flood. I don't know if we're going to have a little boat in there or not. I don't know. Maybe we can talk to Ken Ham about a little replica.
That'd be awesome. I didn't even think about that. Put a little ark in there and have it go up on the water.
Yeah, put a little ark in there. I'm going to go to the Ark Museum here next month on the way back from Taking the World.
Yeah.
So I think I maybe will have a little replica I can buy in the gift shop or something. I don't know.
Legit.
But yeah, the point is we want to show the Creation Week, the flood, as well as the descension of the New Jerusalem at the end of the story. So that's why we're going to be built. This is just a small test version, and Nick did a great job.
He really did.
He truly did a great job. And of course, as you see, guys, he's drilling the holes in the very base level, which this would be the level that we live on Earth, right? This would be our Earth plane.
It is. Right here, I was curious if he maybe did 7 of these holes.
I thought the same thing. I was like, no, this is just testing. We'll get to the
right.
Because that's why he also said that he wants to make the tubing clear, right? Because
yes,
and it makes me think of everything we read about the firmament and the descriptions and Enoch's portals, right? As far as how all these different portals, the gates of the firmament that opened up during the flood, as well as all these other portals where the sun, moon, and stars move around. And so, actually, if I could stop it right here, we actually had our first question tonight, which fits perfectly with what we have on the screen here.
Okay.
So this is Jeremiah 15:16. She's asking that says, my husband wanted you guys to explain the circuit of the sun. If the sun rises from the east and sets in the west, how does it get back to the east?
Very good.
You want this one?
I would gladly. Now, is there an illustration that we can put up to help better explain it?
That's why actually, to my best illustration that on the hand, that's why I paused it right here in the video.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps or not, but you can.
Well, the route I was going to go and take with it is how a compass works and the nature of north versus, the cardinal directions. And let me send you an image if I could, please, really quick, because I got it right now.
I'll put it up here.
Thank you kindly. So I'm going to go to this one, and I think this would probably be the best. Yeah. I'll shoot this one to you right now. And so it really does depend on our understanding of where east and west are and how they relate to the North Pole, where magnetic north is on the Earth. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't claim, there it is, Sean. We don't claim to have the exact perfect map. We don't claim to go high enough to be able to go high enough to see all the positions of the continents as they truly are. However, what we would say is the North Pole would be centered in the direct center that magnetic north should be, in the direct center of the plane. Can you zoom into the top image at all?
No, I'm gonna have to. Hang on, I got it on the right.
That's all right. That's all right. So, with the North Pole being in the center, then your compass, pretend you're in America, as most of us are, pointing that compass, it's going to point north. South is every direction away from north. Therefore, west and east are relative circles to that magnetic north center. Here we go. Thank you, Sean. So you're looking at compasses positioned at the top, left, right, and the bottom here of this map, with an N representing north there in the center. And if you could see, if you were able to zoom in even further, you'd see that north is always pointing towards the center. Therefore, east and west are relative circles, as is illustrated and diagrammed around the sides. Therefore, if you're, let's say, in America, over in the center and the left there, you're going to be, you have your compass, it's pointing north. Left would take in a circle. Can you do a circle with your mouth? Yeah, so if you were going west, you would go in a circle left. There you go. And so east, the other way. So then east, from America would take you over to Africa, Europe, west would, if you want to up, it's more south, you're going to run into Australia if you're going west from America, based on this map here. So when the sun does its circuit, how does it get back to the east? It's because when it's going west from our perspective, from based on where we are, it then circles around where you see it in the east, which then turns into the west as it continues its circle.
Right.
I hope that makes sense.
And while you're talking, I'm also pulling up. We actually did a whole episode on this as well. So he may not have had a chance to see it.
That's okay.
So this is it's called The Greater Light. It's on Common Ground episode 7. And so that might be helpful as well. I'll go ahead and I'll put this in the live chat.
Yeah. Good deal. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it is hard to explain without visual diagrams.
Mm-hmm.
That's the tough part. It really is hard to explain sometimes. But ultimately, just think about it looking face down, as opposed to looking at it from a ball's perspective. You just look at it face down like you're looking through a domed surface down onto a flat plane. That's why it's called the circle of the earth in Isaiah 40:22. And the sun and moon are in the firmament above, and they're circling above it. Now, Wes, I think a lot of people will have this question about what is it circling in the firmament, or is it actually in the sky above us in the clouds?
I would say that it's above at least the first layer of the firmament over our heads, and that it's not something that could be touched floating around underneath the dome.
Yeah.
So it would.
Yeah, I think the pictures that you see floating around where it looks like it's inside the cloud cover, and these are like cumulonimbus clouds that are only at like 30,000 feet. I'm like, guys, airplanes would run into that. We would already have, if that was the case, we would already have pictures upon pictures on pictures of an airplane at 35,000 feet flying, and a photographer pointing out the window parallel to the window at 35,000 feet, taking a picture as they fly by the sun. Like it's not, no, it's above the firmament. And in my understanding, the enemy would have already tried to destroy the sun somehow or blot it out if it was that accessible within our what's it called?
In our atmosphere,
our flying, what's it called? Airspace within our actual airspace where people fly airplanes. Like that's how high these clouds are. Like that people say, oh, look, I'm seeing that. No, it's actual just an illusion between the brightness of the cloud pushing through parts of the cloud that are moisture filled and other parts of the cloud that have less moisture. And so that light shines through less moisture and it looks like it's coming through, but then where the moisture comes in, it'll give an overflow effect. And this, anyone that's done photography knows how this works, where a very bright light looks like it comes out and over another surface that's around it, that's clearly next to it, depending on the aperture of the lens you're looking through. And this is why to the naked eye, no one ever thinks that they see the sun in the clouds. They only see it when they look through a camera, and then they zoom in and they realize, well, it's because the way the brightness of that light, with the lens staring directly at it, the aperture settings don't allow for all the specific details of which part of the cloud is more moisture filled or less moisture filled for that sunshine to come through. So there's an optical situation going on there. But from what we understand from First Enoch, when we did our Greater Light episode 7 show, the sun definitely moves in a circuit. It's interesting that the question was worded this way, Wes, right? Because the word circuit means from a starting place, moving in a circular path back to a starting place.
That's right.
So it's not, what they tell us with the heliocentric model is that the sun is pretty much shooting through space and we're rolling around the sun in revolutions around the sun. But the Bible describes the exact opposite.
It does. Absolutely. I did send you an image, but if there's another question already, we can move on. But the image illustrates well the optical illusion that happens. You can also hold a camera film or something really thin, a tissue maybe even up over a bright light. And especially if you're taking a picture of that, then it can appear as if that light is somehow in front of that tissue or that camera film or whatever thin object you're holding in front of a bright light. It's just the optical illusion, though, just because of the way our eyes work and light affects it. So obviously the light isn't actually the light isn't in front of the film, the camera film there at the bottom. Yeah. But it appears as such just because of the way light works in our eyes and the camera lens there.
Whatever interference is in between it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just like that. Yeah. So, and this kind of gets a little bit deeper as far as like, if the sun and moon were in our flying space, below 50,000 feet, what would the powers be do already? I mean, think about what, Bill Gates wants to do he wants to blot out the sun already. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So he wants to spray aerosols to block the path of the sun to get down to the ground. Imagine if it was actually within, I mean, they'd be shooting bombs at this thing all day long if it was actually not protected by the firmament. That's just my personal funny conjecture, in addition to the great amount of scriptures and observable evidence that we provided in that episode. So please also check out that episode. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, please. Ultimately, the highest clouds on record are at about 50 miles up, and we send plenty of weather balloons up higher than that, where you can see from the video footage that the sun is still much higher than those.
Much higher, yeah. Guys, I just want to lovingly request all your questions be pertaining to this show. So I know that I do other shows on other channels. Please, don't ask me about a show that I did, from other channels, because we're on uncommon ground right now. We want to talk about biblical cosmology. Let's take some of those. All right, so let me see here. All right, so we just answered another question that was kind of like a subsequent question to the sun and moon. We just answered that as well from Miriam New. Jessica Coy is asking about the sun also. A little bit different, but she's asking about the circuits and the movement of the sun. She's asking, so for seasons, the sun goes from a small circle to a larger circle and then back again.
Yes, it's called southern declination of the sun. So when you could even pull up the same image of the map of the compass if you would like.
Sure.
But the sun, when it is summer in the northern quote unquote hemisphere, which is really just the smaller circle of where the North American continent, where the northern Europe and everything is, towards the North Pole, in the middle of the circle of the earth. You have the north, what they call the northern hemisphere, but we know it's not a sphere. And nonetheless, when it is summer in this region, the sun is doing a smaller circuit. Mm-hmm. When it is summer, and when it's winter in the north and summer in the south, out further down around the outer edge, closer to Antarctica, when it's summer in that region, the sun is doing a wider circuit around the face of the earth, over top the circle of the earth. So this is the cause of the seasons. We plan on doing a show where we address things like that, time zones, and some other things that have to do with that kind of topic. But yep, southern declination of the sun. And there's even what I have here. I have some information on where, regarding like the Tropic of Capricorn, they call it. Yeah, so during December, the sun and moon orbit the Tropic of Capricorn, whereas during the September and March, it's right around the equator. So closer up towards the center of the circle of the earth.
I'm actually trying to pull something up to help us real quick.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 1 second.
That's all right. Here's another one. Okay, and then it is in June to July, the sun circles above the Tropic of Cancer, which is even closer to the center. So here's a great illustration. We can put up, Sean, if you can't find one.
I've got it. I've just got to figure out how to share my screen. It's not going to let me share my screen.
Who's that?
That's me. That's me in the studio, guys. I'm trying to use my cell phone to share my screen, but it's not going to let me. So I'm going to have to abandon that pathway. Because I was going to show some things on my phone with a visual illustration for the movement of the seasons, for the sun and the moon and things like that.
Yeah,
we're trying, guys. Again, this is kind of a spontaneous Q&A tonight. We didn't really have a lot of things queued up, so we're trying.
That's right.
All right, did you send me something?
Yeah, I did.
All right, let me get to it real quick.
It'll be a good one to show and help Miss Jessica to visualize. So we got 3 lines on the top image, 3 circles. The yellow is the outermost. Then you have a red, which is second. And then the smallest circle there is the orange one. Now, so the outer one, yellow, represents the Tropic of Capricorn. Mm-hmm. The orange and the most central, smallest one represents the Tropic of Cancer. I'm sorry. Yellow, Capricorn, orange, Cancer, whereas the red line between the two is the equator. And so it is, as I said, that during December 21st to January 22nd, the sun circles above the Tropic of Capricorn, which is the yellow line. Whereas on the from June 21st to July 22nd, the sun circles above the Tropic of Cancer. And then during both the fall and spring equinox, they call it, it's over the equator. The sun circles above the equator. And this would absolutely have to do, wouldn't you say, Sean, with the 4 gates, or how many gates is it that the sun travels through in Enoch?
Yeah, it's the 4 gates. And in fact, I'm pulling that up right now to put on screen. So this is, I don't know if I'll make it bigger.
Excellent.
So this is it says the instructions and of the luminaries, basically, and particularly the sun. This is the first law of the luminary. It has the portals that it goes through. There's 6 portals in which it rises and 6 portals in which it sets. And then this is, I mean, we kind of episode 7 went over this as well in greater detail. And I'm trying to briefly remind folks of what we've done and point them back to the previous episode for a greater in-depth look, because we want to get to other questions. But ultimately, it is the luminary named the sun that it's talking about, as you can see right here. It's called the Great Luminary, and its circumference is like the circumference of the firmament. Remember, this word heaven is the word firmament in Scripture, Genesis 1:6-8. And so this is why it says it's illuminating with heating fire, and it descends and ascends, and the wind drives it, and the sun goes down from the heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east. And so I actually showed a video in that episode about how someone was at the North Pole above Finland in the northern, I think they were above the 33rd parallel and the 66th northern parallel, and they were filming 360 degrees of the sun that was not setting because it was their summertime, all right, in the Arctic. And it showed, his camera didn't move, but it showed that the sun was kind of doing this little number up and down as it made its circumference around the vault, the firmament of the earth overhead, because it's going through different gates as it's coming. And as it's doing that, there's 91 days in the 4 quarters of the year that it goes through this pattern. And then in another 91 days, it changes to another, as Wes has here on screen, to this wider gate, this wider circumference circle, getting closer to the equator. And then it expands out, and this would be, we would call summertime in the southern, quote unquote, southern sphere, southern part of the earth, southern exterior of the earth. I don't want to say the word hemisphere because we don't live in a ball. So
I know,
so it would go from the orange line, and over a period of 91 days and quartered every three months, it's going to go through a different portal, a different gate, if you will, a different pathway in the firmament where it's making its circuit overhead, so that it expands its circumference and widens and then contracts and expands and contracts. So that's how we'd have the seasons, the summers, and how it moves overhead. So
that's right. With 4 new moon days, intercalary days, separating the 4 seasons, all measured at 90 days exactly. I love it. It's beautiful because the 4 times 90 is 360. Then you get those extra 4 days of the intercalary, separating those seasons, making a complete calendar of 364. It's also perfect.
So it looks like Virginia Powers is asking, does the sun really have solar flares like they show, or is that just more fake art?
I've seen, well, I can say that I've seen some independent photography taking footage of, and I got to say what comes to mind most is during the eclipse, during the so-called solar eclipse, is when you see these, it's hard to explain them. They're like jet streams or like plasma is really what I think of, kind of like coagulating or something and coming off of the sun. There's something there, I believe, but do I know exactly what it is, the mechanics of it, how it's being created? No. That just
is it a super hot ball of plasma light inside water?
It almost reminds me of like lava lamps. Mm-hmm. That's what I think of, right? Some kind of plasma lava lamp. But don't quote me on that. I'm not an expert in solar flares, but that would be a great topic for us to study.
Yeah, it's a good question. We also have Commander 777 is asking, is Yahuwah's throne above the 7th firmament, or is he in the 3rd firmament that contains the New Jerusalem and the Garden of Eden?
Great question. Very good question. You take that one, please, Sean.
That's going to be in the 7th. He's going to be the Most High. This is what he's called, the Almighty, and the Most High is Almighty in authority, and he's literally higher than everyone else in the model of creation. That's why all things are underneath him. He's the Most High, and so I would say he's on the 7th. And here's a question Wes, a lot of people like to bring to us that do not like biblical cosmology. Whenever we bring up this idea of where placement is, like this question is about placement, right?
Mhm.
So people will ask us, all right, well, where I'll try to say, encourage them and be like, hey, be encouraged in the model that we were told by Satanists and occultists, this heliocentric model. You don't know where God is. But in the Bible's model, the one that it tells you about biblical cosmology, it tells you that he's at the top layer of this 7-story house. And they'll say, oh, well, you're limiting God to this small little creation model. You're limiting the creator. They can do anything, can't he? And they come with this retort, with this strangeness. And I'm not trying to pick on Trinitarians. It does remind me of that mindset where when you do explain the scriptures that clearly detail what God told us, they then say, well, we can't know everything, or God's bigger than you will ever understand. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. The Father told us what he wanted to know. I didn't mean to rhyme, but I'm a poet. Don't hate the player, hate the game. So the point is, the Father tells us in his words through his prophets where he's at, where we're at, and how he's going to bring part of himself, an ability for him to come down and live with us in the future. So he's on the 7th now, but this is why I've made mention of this in the past, as far as looking at this model and going, all right, well, if the New Jerusalem is on the 3rd and he's on the 7th, and then the New Jerusalem comes down, and that's in the future when it descends, and that's when he says the Father and the Son will dwell amongst mankind.
Mhm.
That's where I've always wondered, is the New Jerusalem's height, is it actually connected to the 7th somehow? Or is it just like, how do I say this? Is the roof of the New Jerusalem just like where he comes in to be able to dwell with us because of the way the New Jerusalem is made, as far as the structure of it can contain his power and something to that effect, basically. But that's just some detailed questions that I haven't heard or seen explained from the scriptures, that I kind of speculate. But I definitely believe that he's on the 7th, as he says.
That's right. Yeah, and I definitely recommend Commando 777. Check out Testament of Levi for some greater details. Apocalypse of Abraham is another good one, where they are shown visions and given explanations even of what's going on in different levels. Those are great writings to check out. Did you have an illustration? Were you able to get that?
Oh, my bad.
I sent you another one. I just wanted to give a visual for that gentleman to be able to see.
Sure. Let me get to
because we are told in 2 Corinthians 2:12, 2 Corinthians 12, I think, that the paradise, which is the Garden of Eden, turned into the New Jerusalem. Can't wait to do that episode. That it was taken to the third heaven. People always say, Paul went up there. Well, Paul doesn't say he did. Paul said he had a friend, or I'm sorry, he knew a man. Whether in the body or the spirit, he did not know, which I would say I don't know why he didn't know that, because clearly it was in the spirit.
Yeah.
In the spirit, taken up to the 3rd heaven. But yeah, we got a nice illustration here that I collaborated on with Ken Heidebrecht, where he has a model here of the creation with a nice big throne tabernacle kind of situation at the very top, 7th heaven, Most High, literal description of his placement, the Most High. And then the angels directly below that. In the 5th firmament below that is where Apocalypse of Abraham says the stars are. And then the 4th, we don't get. I'm not aware of a mention of the 4th heaven in any scripture. Are you?
No, it's just it's assumed, unfortunately, because we get all the details of the other 6.
Exactly. Yeah.
But, yeah.
Nonetheless, in that box I just put, what is it? Ephesians 4.
Ephesians 4:10.
Yeah,
where it's just the heavens, all the heavens.
It just mentions Yeshua ascending through the heavens.
Yeah, and it's also in Hebrews 4:14 and 15 as well.
There you go.
Yeah,
it is. Nonetheless, the 3rd heaven is where 2 Corinthians, and I was right, it was 12, 2 through 4 says that the New Jerusalem. It doesn't say New Jerusalem; it says paradise. But there's a great study there to check out. Paradise is the New Jerusalem. I'd recommend 2nd Esdras to help you with that study.
Yeah, chapter 2 directly calls the New Jerusalem paradise. And this is what's been stored and reserved and will be given as the inheritance to the saints at the resurrection. 2nd Esdras chapter 2 verses 10 through 21 really encapsulates all that language directly, succinctly. It's pretty great. So, but yeah, there's this is a wonderful meme that you made. This is a wonderful image that you made, brother.
Thank you.
Just to show people, we talked about this a lot in episode 1. And we have another question directed later to this, which is what I'm keeping on the screen here. Mashaikim is asking,
cool.
What is outside of creation? What is beyond the 7th firmament? Is it endless?
You go ahead.
Doesn't tell us. Again, I don't know. I'm not going to try to just shoot from the hip here. Like if I haven't read it, if I haven't studied it, if I haven't researched it, but for as much as I've been reading the Bible since 1997, constantly, I've never seen anything described of what is outside of what's created in Genesis 1. And I don't know if there has to be anything outside. I mean, it could literally be a place of no space and no time. And
I will say, Apocalypse of Abraham, when he's on the seventh, doesn't he say, "I saw a place"? Was it there where he said, "There's not a firmament above it"?
You're thinking of First Enoch.
I'm thinking of Enoch when he was in Sheol.
Not quite. You're thinking of Enoch when it's talking about the prison of the stars that transgressed their command and the
Tartarus.
Yeah, and so this is a place that seems to be, from the descriptions of Enoch, to be in a place deep under the earth, where there's no firmly fixed firmament above or land beneath. I don't know what that means or looks like, but so,
and that's exciting stuff to me, guys. Just to be able to show, the scriptures that talk about the seven heavens. That's awesome feeling for me, just because I know there's so many people that haven't ever even been introduced to this or what some of these texts say. But there's a whole underworld of creation, a whole basement, and there's a couple levels. There's like a B1 and a B2 almost in there.
That's right. Yeah,
and we have not taken that elevator ride yet, but I cannot wait to.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And be encouraged, guys. I mean, First Enoch expresses to us that there are angels that guard or manage, if you will, like they're over that part of underneath the earth, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a strange thought to me that I've encountered in the past year. I'm realizing the average believer doesn't understand that angels were made to be like landlords of this creation.
Ministering spirits. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to use a term they might recognize. I 100% agree. Yeah, the ministering spirits. I was actually going to say that's why in First Enoch 83 it talks about the angel that actually guides the sun, which could be the same angel we see in Revelation 18 that stands in the sun and shouts the eternal gospel. Is like, how can he be that close to that illuminating heat and fire and not be affected? Well, because he's made of fire and light and water, and he has a totally different type of ontology, a totally different type of physical creation. His chemistry, his physics is different. And as a result of that, they can go anywhere in this creation model that you're looking at on screen, guys. They can go anywhere they want or anywhere they're assigned. And that's where we're going to talk about this in our Sheol episode, but there are entire groups of angels with their own hierarchy of leadership assigned to under the earth to guard the Father's creation. So this whole Catholic idea of, if you go to hell, like it's just a place where Satan, it's his kingdom, he rules and tortures people all day. No, that's not what the Father created. Like that's not even close to what the Father describes. So
in Job, Satan's running around up and down, right? And Peter, he says he's roaming the earth like a lion. So
yeah,
he's out here. He's not down there. There's all the demons. I don't know if y'all have looked around lately, but the demons are definitely here.
That's right.
They're not down there torturing anybody.
Scott McVicker's asking a good question, and I can't remember if Ken and I addressed this on season 1 of Honor of Kings when we went through the Apocalypse of Abraham.
Yeah,
there are 2 translations. One of them comes from the Syriac, and one of them comes from the Greek. And I think it's the Greek translation that whoever translated it, they put in an 8th firmament, whereas the Syriac doesn't. It just says 7 firmaments.
Yeah.
So it can be confusing. And I think Ken and I tried to address this in those episodes at one point, just to explain to people, we see this could be the episode where we started talking about the ideas of translators inserting ideas that you don't see in the rest of scripture because they just don't understand it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this is where, people could make the argument. They'll say, well, is the 8th firmament the roof over the 7th firmament that encapsulates the 7th firmament, right? So like if I put your picture back on the screen here, they would say, well, is there something above where the Father's throne is sitting on that 7th firmament that's encapsulating it? And it's speaking about each layer that has a roof and a floor. That's one firmament layer, possibly. But from what I understood from the text, and also from the testimony that we have from Irenaeus in the 2nd century, he seemed to have been taught from Polycarp that there's only 7 firmaments total, and that the 7th firmament encompasses all the rest. So
agreed.
This is where I would say translator insertions, translator errors, as far as, and then that's another thing we try to talk about with the Apocalypse of Abraham. It's not complete, guys. There's chunks of it missing.
It's a fragment, just like we find it in Enoch, and we find with a lot of the Dead Sea Scrolls and different things that were found there.
Yeah. So they're doing their best to try to translate as they could. And so that's why we were trying to say, yeah, the Syriac translation makes a lot more sense that there's only 7 firmaments, because we see that validated by other people and other manuscripts. So,
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Great question so far. I'm enjoying it,
yeah.
guys. Thank y'all.
Yeah. See, I told you it wouldn't be that bad.
Nah. I was a little nervous. I was.
We get the Vatican question.
Okay.
Do we think the Vatican has books with knowledge and they're keeping it secret?
I've heard they have a library. I haven't personally seen it, but
I just gonna say yes. Of course they do. Yeah. Like, I think I don't know how many books. I guarantee you they have books that the average person hasn't read.
So tell me what you think about this, Sean, in Second Esdras, where Ezra's got his scribe buddies and Uriel tells him, hey, drink this weird stuff, and then y'all are gonna sit with me and we're gonna write down stuff in a language that y'all haven't even been speaking, apparently, at the time. There's 2 different versions of the manuscript there, right? One of them says 94, 92. How many books did they write? So basically at the time, right, different emperors, different regimes that came in and destroyed a lot of scrolls, right? So there wasn't a whole lot of the scriptures to be spoken of. People had disregarded them. And the prophet Ezra in Second Esdras was commissioned by the angel and the Most High to rewrite them.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm late. I'm waiting for you to get to the end.
Just the question was, which manuscript would you say is more accurate? Is there like 100, 200 something, or more like 90?
Oh, because one of the manuscripts says 204 and the other one says 90 something. I can't remember, but it says lock away 70 books.
Yeah, for the wise.
For the wise, and then the regular people can have the rest. And
there's no way to validate it, right?
There's no way.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know how to tell. I know that some people struggle with Second Esdras because they try to line it up in the historicity of the Southern Kingdom returning with Nehemiah and Ezra back and what year they think that was. But the kings, the Assyrian or the Babylonian kings list will really throw people off. And so a lot of people think that Ezra's is, I mean, I don't want to step into an entire show of Honor and Kings here, but a lot of people, I'm just gonna make this as quick as possible. People think that Ezra's off because they look at the dates in chapter 1 and then, or I think it's chapter 2 and then chapter 14. And they think, all right, well, they forget that a prophet lived an entire lifespan. He didn't just write the book in one setting in like a month. So like the collection of information, you have to look at the dates and the timing and see like just like Isaiah wrote it over a long period of time. Ezekiel the same way. Ezekiel wrote some of it pre-exile in Babylon and post-exile in Babylon. So you have to just remember, like, he didn't just sit down and write it all in current events in one year. Like, it's spread out over lots of time. And so people do try to do the math and like, oh, that means Ezra was like 200 years old or 180 years old or something like that, because they try to put the days of Ezra in the king's list of the Babylonians. But that's where you've got to understand ancient kings lists, as far as they would take the same name as someone 100 years earlier than them, or 100 years later. So that's why you had multiple Darius, multiple Nebuchadnezzars, multiple Artaxerxes, multiple, you know what I'm saying? So you just have to keep there's so much to keep in the context of when you start doing historical searches as opposed to just textual searches. There's a lot to it. So, I mean, this is why people go to school for that, to be quote unquote scholars, So that's just something to keep in mind. With that said, is the manuscripts that we have that have conflicting numbers in certain places. That's where, all I know is that the books that we do have, regardless of which manuscript, let me say it like this, regardless of which manuscript you want to take for Second Esdras, I've never seen anyone that has access to the books that were withheld. Let's put it like that. If the Vatican has them, they're not released to the public. So what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? Does it hurt you as a believer? Is there some kind of weird missing information that you don't have that matters to your life and how to act like Jesus in this life and how to walk it out and how to have hope for the coming kingdom of God and share the love of that message to other people? No.
We have more than enough.
We have so much more than enough. I mean, that's why we do episode after episode after episode. We're not pulling from secret books that no one's ever read. Like, we're just showing you what's already plainly available to the average person, and the average person doesn't understand the plainly written words that are already there. Like, we have these constant arguments with people that will, like I said earlier, they'll say, I refuse to believe that the Father created a house with 7 layers. I want to believe we live in this vastness of space that no one can imagine or calculate. And that my Heavenly Father is somewhere in another dimension that I can't see or ever understand or grasp. Like they choose to believe that, as opposed to, well, the Father actually describes something very, very manageable, like very understandable, very tangible, and so
Yeah.
it's just, it comes down to like where's your heart at, as far as like, are you really going to believe his words or not? How many times in scriptures do we see the Father saying to people, I want you to do this, and they're like, I don't know, was that really going to happen? And Father's like, at the end of the story, the Father's like, I just wish you would just believe me.
Yeah.
Like, I know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
Part of having faith is taking him for his word and completely trusting. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing. That's being faithful.
Okay, we got a fun question. We probably gonna. This is all yours, brother. You can have this.
Okay. Do you think meteors, from Miss Shannon Mackey, meteors are volcanic rocks from eruptions or something else? So Sean has on Kingdom Cast, and he has a little clip where that Q&A on his Kingdom Cast channel. There's a video where he addresses this, and you speculate that that's what's being caused. I got to say, I used to think that, according to Testament of Solomon, something completely different was going on there until I saw the Honor of Kings episodes of Testament of Solomon, because it's hard to trust anything in that book after that. But
it's a rough book.
I think the demons, just to kind of go over that, there is a passage in the book called Testament of Solomon. Definitely should not be attributed to Solomon, I wouldn't say, but it claims that they're unclean spirits, demons falling because they can't have a foothold in the heavens or something like that. I think they have plenty to do down here that they would never want to just try to go up there. Like they're
well, for one, 1 Enoch 15 tells us they can't go up there. So
that's right.
The whole premise of what is put forward in the Testament of Solomon is contradictory to the Gospels and 1 Enoch. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But do I know for sure what we're seeing when shooting stars are flying across the firmament in the night sky? I can't say 100%. It would make sense that volcanic particulates can shoot up and be carried up by the winds in the atmosphere and then be flying across the sky. I think it's also equally possible that they are a what's the words I'm looking for here? Like a result of, yes, exactly. A result of the firmament and the stars, the luminaries as they do. I know we see that the lightnings and stars are connected.
The sprites.
In Enoch, I think it says the lightnings proceed forth. Nonetheless, it could be another kind of electrical phenomenon, plasma type discharge as a result of the firmament of power.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting, like if we were on a ball in space and a quote unquote meteorite was what they tell us it was, how come I never see one coming up this way?
Absolutely right. Yeah, this is something.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if we did an episode on the stars, I would definitely want to illustrate that, because you never, if we're on a ball with space all around us, infinite expanding, and then there's really no up or down in space, these meteorites aren't going to care which way you're facing, which way the earth is positioned. They're going to be coming in, if it were really the case that they're flying space rocks, right, however many miles away, that they'd come from every direction at every angle, but we only ever see them coming down, diagonally down, from up to down.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So yeah, there's a lot there to it. The idea of volcanic, what that person was mentioning was there's sulfur and salt that's exploded into the earth through volcanic eruptions, which happen all the time throughout the earth, every day around the plane of the earth. And since those volcanic eruptions are always in the same place for the most part, until we have, a new active volcano, which is very rare. Even in our lifetime, we've only had a few that have become active. But there's other ones that have always been active. I mean, there's an entire area in the Southeast Seas that's called the Ring of Fire. There are all these volcanoes that have always been active since we've been recording history. So that's constantly spewing sulfuric ash into the upper atmosphere, which gets carried by wind patterns and taken over land somewhere. So what's in that sulfuric ash is large amounts of sulfur deposits, which is highly flammable. And so this is just a theory, guys, but that it's very possible with the consistency that every day they're shooting ash up into the air. That's carried by trade winds that are going to take it to over land. And then once it actually gets to a point where it's starting to fall, just like you'll see from remember in 2010, the Icelandic volcanic eruption, and it spewed ash all over Northern Europe, and it fell. Like Iceland, guys, is separated by the ocean, by the Arctic Ocean, from the rest of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
but it traveled in the air, high altitude over the ocean, and landed in parts of Ireland and Scotland and Northern Europe, Finland. And so that's little bitty rocks and soot and ash and dirt that was carried through high winds and then finally dropped again. So if some of that ash and dirt is highly flammable because it's a piece of sulfur and it's coming down with the air friction, that could be why we see it ignite and burn out as it's falling. So, and it could be why they can predict them, because the same volcanoes are going off all over the place. And where they do have large amounts of volcanic eruptions at the immediacy around it that they can go and test, it's huge deposits of sulfuric acid and sulfur deposits. So yeah,
that reminds me, there's like a Leonids meteor shower, a Perseid meteor shower in certain constellations about the same time every year too, in there.
Yeah.
If it weren't volcanic particulates, then it could also just be another cycle of the stars, or who knows.
Yeah, very possible. Like you talked about, just the idea of what happens as the power continues to surge through the firmament and has to discharge in certain areas. That could just be the areas that it discharges at the certain times of the year. I also remember Genesis 19. I mean, archaeology has actually found the burnt sulfur in the southeast region. It's called the Levant. It's southeast Israel, near the Dead Sea, which is drying up. And so there's huge settlements that they found, which they believe to be the ancient cities of Sodom and Gomorrah and the other the other 4 cities of the plain. So they're all covered in this sulfuric little, we should do a show on it, I guess. I mean, at some point, but it's these little yellow balls of sulfur. And they're embedded in the rock and the houses and the dirt, and you can pick them up and light them on fire, and they burn a bright blue flame.
Yeah.
And highly flammable.
And they're like embedded in the rocks and like what looks to be petrified buildings almost and stuff.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's wild. So yeah, I wouldn't put it past. And of course, I just wouldn't put it past volcanoes that are always going off having something to do with it.
Very cool. Very well could be. Hope that's a decent answer for you, brother. Please put your questions in all caps. That was a sister there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Shannon Mackey.
Thank you, Miss Shannon.
Yeah. I think I missed a question up here.
Let me pull out the old.
Jason Kinney's asking, I guess this has to do, because we were talking about Sheol a minute ago, so I guess this is kind of related to biblical cosmology to a degree. He's asking about the video of the screams recorded in the 7.5 mile deep hole.
I've thought about that.
He's asking if we believe they're legit or not. I'm just going to assume.
I mean, what was it on? Wasn't it like a National Geographic or
well, Jason's previous question right before it is, do you believe it's possible to dig into Sheol?
I see. Amos tells us, though they dig into Sheol by his hand, he brings them up. Though they ascend into the heavens, he brings them down.
Yeah, we actually had, I think, covered that verse last week. Amos 9, verse 2.
There it is. Yep. So, no, I don't think that we can physically get to Sheol. I think the Father himself has set up a failsafe to ensure that doesn't happen. In the times that he's taken people to Sheol alive, basically, he's opened up the earth himself, right?
It's called the gates of Hades. The gate, like Yeshua talked about. Gates of Hades shall not prevail.
He's probably got armed guards.
Yeah, this is why in Revelation 9, the star that falls has to have a key to open the abyss. Because again, there's angels guard under the earth and all the compartments under the earth that the Father created. And then an angel has to come who has the authority to come down and open one of those compartments that lets out Apollyon and these 200 other million.
Which is another great reason to check out Apocalypse of Abraham, because that exact angel is named, and that's the only place he's named that I'm aware of, as well as introduced Joel, I believe.
Joel, yeah. Or I don't know what the transliteration, if we're doing it right or not, but okay. Rachel Sung is asking, are there any whistleblowers that come out about FE?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, for 6 years now, different YouTube channels that have been investigating the topic of the shape of the earth have been interviewing people from all walks of life, all different types of careers and professions. I mean, everywhere from Navy radar specialists to pilots to engineers to physicists to, yes, people have come out realizing that what we've been told is not accurate to science and observation, and that they're finding lots of holes in it. Pilots have been coming out and saying that they know that they're not flying over a ball, they're flying over a flat flame. They just can't talk about it; they'll get fired. And then there was a guy that came out from NASA, but then he suddenly disappeared. This happened the last 3 or 4 months. But don't forget about someone that we invited to come on our show, but she said she's not doing interviews anymore. And that's our sister. I'm trying to think of her name right now. She worked for NASA on the SR-71
Cindy
Blackbird
Holland.
project. Cindy Holland. She was an actual engineer on the SR-71 Blackbird, guys. If you go look it up, you'll notice the plane once you look it up. And it was a NASA project before it was a Air Force project. And she worked with NASA, I think, for like 14 years as a contractor. She's a plane engineer. Okay. Worked with NASA. She's 100% knows that it's all a lie. 100% knows that what the Bible describes as a flat circular plane of earth encompassed by a dome, she knows that that is the truth. So yes, lots of different people have come out.
And I would absolutely say that every step of the way throughout history, when another proponent of the heliocentric theory, the globe theory, would produce their writings, their presentations, whatever the case, there was always contemporaries speaking out against those people at every step of the way. Like, Isaac Newton had contemporaries that were saying that his theories were nonsense. So did Copernicus. So did, you name it. Every one of them were like, that's not true. People were standing up and saying so. In the 1900s, there was a city named Zion where the guy didn't allow people to live there if you believed in the globe.
That's right. That's right. David Weiss from Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. He interviewed a lady that was 102 years old in a nursing home, and she talked about when she was 6 or 7 years old in school, they taught her that the earth was flat. And then she said later they changed it and started teaching that we lived on a ball. And she was like, and David, of course, being someone that talks about the earth not being a ball, he shared with her, what you were originally taught was true, and people are coming back to this information and realizing that it is provable, testable. And this lady was just in tears, realizing like she thought her whole life, right, almost 100 years of her life, she was confused. And then here at the end of her life, may she continue to live as long as the Father will keep her on the earth. But here at the end of her life, she's having a conversation with some random dude that comes into her nursing home and starts interviewing her on camera. It was great, and she's all tearing up because she's like, yeah, I know it wasn't a ball in space. Like I knew it was flat, and I don't know why they told us different. Well, because they started brainwashing people. So that's what the
indoctrination became thicker and thicker.
Rachel Sung, this is honestly, I would actually suggest that David Weiss's app that we mentioned earlier. He has a lot of videos and a Q&A section in there that can take you to different types of videos that probably be close to what you're looking for. Unless you have a pre-piled playlist.
No,
where these videos are.
But I did just download and upload a clip that I'm about to send you that would probably be a great kind of pairing with that question. Okay. And it says processing has started. So any second now. It was a pretty short one. And there was a gentleman that this appears to be in the 60s, 70s. He made it on the news, and he was speaking out at the time.
Awesome.
Just one of many examples. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just saying real quick, while that clip is loading, I'm going to take a couple quick ones. This is Ali Adonai. Have you guys ever done anything on the globe argument or spherical geometry, debunk or explain? I'm not sure. She may be new to the show. I'm just going to give the benefit of the doubt. This is all we do. This is episode 15 of our first season. So I would suggest go back and checking out the previous 14 episodes where we talk with great explanation about what the scriptures say, as well as modern science and observation experiments to talk about the idea of the shape of where you live, as well as episode 2. Specifically, we contrast heliocentricity versus geocentricity. I don't know why I'm felt led to point you to that episode with your question, but maybe you should.
As well as episode 4, I think, but I know it's entitled "Where's the Curve?" In that one, we definitely address some things that are directly contrary to the modern narrative of spherical geometry in relation to the Earth, because they tell us the Earth is, real quick, 24,900 miles around, just about, in circumference. And then based on that, there should be a measurable curvature, something demonstrable that you can go out and test to be consistent if Earth is this sphere that they show us the pictures of. even though, you know, you got one side saying that it's a pear shape, you know, it's wider at the equator, and then all the pictures they give us look to be perfect spheres. Nonetheless, there should be a consistent rate of curvature that would equal to 8 inches per mile squared. I understand that that eventually turns into a parabola, but it is proven to be consistent for the first 500 to 1,000 miles or so on a sphere that's alleged to be about 25,000 miles around. Nonetheless, 8 inches per mile squared, 8 inches happens to be 0.666 of a foot. So then in 10 miles, there should exist 66.6 feet of curvature. I kid you not. Then in 100 miles distance, there should exist a curvature, a hump from point A to point B of height that has a hump of curvature. In 100 miles, it would be 6,669 feet. And then the world record photograph is about 247 miles away at the Pic de Fenestrelles to Barre de Écrins that we covered in that Where's the Curve episode, where there should be over 3 miles, including the height of the observer and the different, measurements there. There should still be a 3-mile hump, hiding the mountain range that he took that picture of, but it's perfectly visible.
Yeah.
Not
Also,
refraction.
I think in that episode as well, did you already mention Jay Tolan?
We did, yeah. In that one, he was from an airplane, but he was able to see what he deduced to be about 1,000 miles away.
Yeah, he was flying over Mississippi and he saw Huron Bay in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So, he was flying over Illinois over the Mississippi River, and he saw the Huron Bay or Huron Big Lake. It's called a bay, I believe, but in northern Canada, which was super long, 1,000 miles away. It would not be able to be seen on a globe. He sees that with an infrared lens on his camera.
Can you name the Great Lakes?
Clouds. Oh man, the Great Lakes, Superior.
Holmes.
What's that?
Holmes.
It's Superior, Michigan, Ontario, Huron, and the E one I can't remember.
Erie. That's right.
Erie. That's right. Yeah.
Very good. Random geography quiz.
Yeah, don't test me on anything further north in Canada. I can't tell you the provinces in Canada or anything significant up there.
Me neither. Our brother Ken can. That's what he's for.
So this clip is downloading to play. It looks like it's 11 minutes long.
It is, and you do not have to play it past like the first news clip. Probably the first 3 or 4, maybe 5 minutes, but that would be a good combination here to throw in, just to respond to Miss Rachel. So you can see examples of very real people that have absolutely been speaking out.
Flat, sun-baked Mojave Desert stretches for miles to the mountains. Beyond the mountains, the flat land stretches to the horizon. And beyond the horizon, according to Charles Johnson, the land continues to be flat. As a matter of fact, Charles Johnson believes the whole world is flat. 30 minutes from Lancaster, just off Highway 14 in a remote corner of the desert, Charles Johnson...
Now, real quick, Wes, do you know approximately what year this show was made?
I think it was after the first moon landing. Had to have been.
It looks mid-70s.
Yeah, I would say so.
Johnson set up his Flat Earth headquarters about 10 years ago. It's from here he keeps in touch with the rest of the world. A round map of the flat Earth adorns the wall of the office.
We both have that same map, don't we?
The only other staff member, spend endless hours spreading the gospel and the latest facts to fellow believers.
Our aim is to restore the world to sanity. The civilization is crumbling. It must come to pieces because we're based on a completely false premise. And I mean, Watergate, things like that have no consequence, compared to this. Moses is a flat earther, by the way. He's one of the earliest writers for the Flat Earth Society. George Washington was a flat.
Now, I got to address this real quick because we're going to get people coming at us because it says Flat Earth Society.
He did. Now, he wrote on his paper that he heads the Flat Earth Research Society, but he will say Flat Earth Society just because that's the only really label that people knew of at the time. But we don't associate with the society. If you go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the website that you go to, that's the Flat Earth Society, that's all information that we don't agree with. That's all non-biblical information. It's just disinformation by a government site.
One of the biggest, inconsistencies that you'll find with some of the things they teach over there is that they say the Earth is this spaceship shooting up through, an infinite space of sorts, and that is how they account for gravity, that it moves upward at 9.8 meters per second to account for the downward pull. Whereas we've shown over and over, especially in episode 2, geocentricity, no sphericity, we showed how the Earth is stationary from Scripture and from observable tests.
Yeah, it's encompassed by 7 firmaments. It's not shooting through anything. It's immovable on its foundations.
That's right.
He gets mail from, excuse me, around the world, including some from institutions of higher learning.
Well, a PhD. Well, let's see. I'll have to answer his letter. He said he's so
was that,
happy
canned
he's always
laughter?
made the Earth's flat, but he never knew where we were located. Well, thank goodness he's found us. We're living in the midst of a hoax of the space program, plus the hoax that the world is evolved to begin with. The rest of me,
You know, this is something actually I'm sorry to keep stopping, but this is something I did want to say this week because it was on my mind all week, because I keep seeing about everything that we've been dealing with for the last year or more, year and a half, with the whole Rona thing, the worldwide scare about Rona, and everything to do with that, you know, the virus that shall not be named for censorship reasons. Everything to do with that the world, they keep pushing the propaganda, even though the death rates don't match. Doctors have come out against it. Their stories have been utterly contradictory, even as of like the last week. There's no actual verifiable science to support the numbers and claims that they have, not just for the spread of that which shall not be named, but also the vaccine, the medicine that shall not be named that they're trying to push to stop the thing that shall not be named. So, like, the whole point of all what they're doing, like, just think about it. We're only a year and a half in, Wes. What's it gonna be like in 2025 when they're still talking about it?
Oh boy,
It's
moved.
newscast.
Just based on what I'm hearing is happening in different countries and what's already being proposed to, you know, voluntarily be proposed here, it's already moving faster than I thought it would. So I can only imagine. Yeah,
they're talking about Australia's already brought the military in to enforce people being on lockdown, and they're doing huge protests in Europe and in France and other countries against lockdowns and against, you know, the idea of COVID vaccine passports. Oh man, my bad, I said it. So the point is,
all right, guys, thank you. Enjoyed it.
We'll be cutting this off soon. So, basically, like, share, and subscribe. That's because they're not going to recommend this video now. So basically, you know, just we're only a year and a half in. In 5 years, they're going to be talking about this. It's still going to be it's going to be in textbooks, guys. Kids are going to be learning about in textbooks that, oh, the year 2019, that was the year that the world lost how many people? Who knows if that number is even going to be accurate, because they've been counting any death. There was a nurse that I was listening to the other day. No, it wasn't a nurse. He's a respiratory therapist, and he was showing people in his storeroom in his hospital all of these ventilators that were for CPAP machines that's like stage 1 of ventilation versus intubation, which is like hardcore, really hard in the body. People don't survive it very often. And he's saying that we can't use CPAP machines. We're not allowed to use these on anyone that has respiratory issues due to this new illness. Therefore, we have to put them on intubators, which likely they don't survive. So this, guys, is engineered to stack the numbers against you, to give them reason to shut down things, to employ new laws, to siphon more money out of the system through printing money, to create a land grab through everything that's going on with the real estate right now, and also the food market. They're trying to do food grab market and get access. I can't say it fast enough, guys. I'm trying to just get to the point real quick. I'm sorry, Wes.
You're okay.
The point is, I'm just trying to say, guys, that's just all happened in 18 months. Imagine 5 to 10 years from now, the mountain of propaganda that children that are like 2 and 10 years from now, they're going to be 12. And actually their brain starts kicking in, start considering bigger ideas in life and thinking about functions and civics and how the world works with other countries and their country, and e-commerce and regular commerce and going to the grocery store, all these things that might matter to them. And they start thinking about life in that young prepubescent brain. All they're going to be seeing is tons and tons of propaganda about a lie that was pushed, and all the numbers were inflated and all the media was complicit in it. They should all be jailed for misinformation. But of course, why? They won't be, because that was a law that was signed in 2009 by President Obama, that they can lie in the media and not be prosecuted for it. Just like the pharmaceutical manufacturers can put poison in your body and not be held liable for it legally. So, there's all this stuff. And here we are. This guy in this video says, we're living in a hoax. This is in the mid 70s. in this, guys, what did I talk about earlier about David Rice interviewing that 102-year-old lady who back in the early 1900s, like 1915, she's talking about when she was a kid in school, they taught you that the earth was not a ball in space, and then they changed their story. And she still remembers the original story. So think about that from the 1920s, say, up to this video we're watching here in the 1970s, 50 years, that lady's living with this mindset of, this isn't right. Like all this information they keep reinforcing and speaking about, oh, now they're telling me they're going to the moon, but that's not right. Like, just like we showed that episode about the guy that was talking about, yeah, no one's going to be landing on the moon. We know that you can't land on the moon. That physicist, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was in the early 60s, right? So here's this dude with the Flat Earth Research Group, Society, whatever you want to call it, in the 1970s. And he's directly saying, like, we've been living through a hoax, guys. He's still saying it. And he's probably, I don't know when he came to this conclusion, but like at his point in his life, like he's decades deep living into this hoax. And guys, I just want to prepare your hearts and minds. It looks like we're going to be living, not only are we still living in the hoax with SpaceX, Blue Origin, NASA, your ESA, JAXA, you know, all around the world, they're still pushing the same hoax. But now we've got another hoax they're pushing on us that they're propagating, just like they inflate all the numbers for the telemetry data that they lost going back and forth to the moon. That was all inflated numbers that someone may actually have written down at some point. They're willing to make up a story every single day to enforce these lies. And this. I'm sorry, I'm off for a rant. Bro.
You're okay. You're okay. While the cat's out of the bag and while we're on the topic, I just got to say, like, the numbers that they're not trying to inflate are the numbers about how many people have supposedly are dying from this needle with the so-called medicine in it, because we're seeing reports of one doctor saying that there's 11 different lawsuits out right now. One of them showing 45,000 deaths of the different V words, right, from the medicine. And then there's another doctor I saw the other day talk about 150,000 just in America, he believes. And so how can we know with so much misinformation going on out there? I would not be surprised if that's accurate or even lowballed, but nonetheless, use that warning for what you will.
Yeah, it's rough, man. It's Father, help us.
I have around 1,500 members, but all of them are not paid up. I'll tell you that. I was checking over one time. People asked me what kind of people belong to the Flat Earth Society. Well, I tell them it's thinking classes. But as professions now, medical doctors and lawyers are there, or judges. Our country is just loaded with flat earthers, but they're closet believers.
Mr. Johnson, how can you prove to me that the world is flat?
It's the simplest and the easiest. It's like every great idea. It's so elementary, it's so simple that you can't understand it. I kicked myself. I was only 18 when I learned how to prove it. I said, my God, how was I so stupid that I couldn't have thought of it to begin with?
Prove to me that the world.
So what does that mean, Wes? How old is this guy now? This is say this is 75.
I'd say 50-ish, maybe mid 50s, early 60s. So you're talking about at least 40 years.
40
30,
years.
40 years, yeah.
That puts him back into the 1930s.
Right.
He's like, at 18, I could prove we don't live on a ball in space. That's crazy.
There's no curvature. There's not an inch. There's not any. It's flat. In reality, there's no way to fall off of the flat Earth. But if the world were a ball, of course, you would fall off.
Mr. Johnson feels that falling off a ball is proof enough the Earth is flat. So I asked him about the celestial bodies which the eye and telescope can see are round.
We don't have to explain the stars. I mean, they're just little lights up there.
Like little light bulbs?
They could very well be up in the dome of heaven.
What about the other planets?
Beautiful. In
So
the dome of heaven.
So yeah, it sounds like he's got some biblical understanding too.
Yes, sir.
It's not a planet. Earth is the center of the universe. I mean, this is the universe. This is all there is. It's just one world, one
He
flat
said it's not a
world.
planet. It's the
Charles
center of the
Johnson
universe.
also believes, because airlines navigate with flat maps, that some of them endorse his theories.
We advise all our members and supporters to fly TWA all the way. They're officially Flat Earth. It's the Flat Earth airline. They use the Flat Earth map. They navigate by the Flat Earth map.
Mr. Johnson, probably the most beautiful picture I ever saw was of the round Earth taken from the moon. How do you explain those pictures?
It's the same world. It was made in the same place by movie studios. Actually, I think NBC and some of the movie studios make much better space photographs, you know, like Buck Rogers and all that sort of thing is far superior to the movies that NASA makes. They're actually rank amateurs.
Mr. Johnson says the space program
awesome.
is only
Yeah.
the product of a movie studio. But from the front porch of his Flat Earth headquarters, he can see the space headquarters of Rockwell International.
Now you want to talk about the magic of Hollywood. I'm going to show you some magic right now.
This is where America's first space shuttle, the Enterprise, was built. We asked Charles to come with us to look at it, but he refused, saying he wanted nothing to do with round earthers. We asked some of the engineers and scientists about their neighbor's philosophy.
There are parts of it that are very flat. I've been in Kansas, and that's flat.
Flatter than a pancake, they said,
We call
right?
it the space shuttle, and it's an orbiter, and that's interesting. If it orbits, we think it orbits round, not,
It's just a
around
glider
the
plane.
Earth rather than just in circles.
It's not just going to Tacoma?
No, it's really going up.
And Mr. Johnson commented on the work of his neighbors.
There is no space program. It only exists on film.
I think he's crazy. I really think that the guy is just absolutely...
It only exists on film.
I don't think he's crazy, and I think this is fascinating. I wonder if this dude's still alive, because he'd be in his 80s. I mean, it's possible he could still be alive, right? No, he'd be in his 90s. I mean, it is possible, but wow, if someone could find this guy who was still alive, he'd probably be so happy now in the last 6 years,
Right.
seeing all these millions and millions of people around the world coming to this realization and proving it with every single video they come out with. I mean, wow, bro.
Right.
Batty.
Do my best Alex Stein impression. Wow. Sorry.
Those trees.
You're all right.
We asked one of the technicians how they could prove to Mr. Johnson, if he were here, that the Earth wasn't flat.
Well, maybe you ought to sign up for the astronaut program or something. That would really be the only way to know.
But even if he were younger, Mr. Johnson says he would
Math.
never join the astronaut program because he says it doesn't exist. He feels the wave of the future is not space, but his philosophy, and he insists that it will not die even after they have buried him in the flat Earth.
The Flat Earth Society, contrary to what people think is something old, we're the new, the modern, we're the avant-garde, we're the wave of the future.
Launch commit, liftoff. We have liftoff 49 minutes past the hour.
The new world is flat.
Can you believe it? Are you ready? Richard Blade and Wally George back.
Wow. Yeah, Eric Rice in the crowd, he said that he thinks that the guy died in 2001.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. Interesting.
God rest his soul.
That's a great
Tried
video.
to tell him.
brother.
He tried
That's a
to
great
tell him.
video. We should
Cool.
probably use that video again for somehow.
Okay.
That's a great video, man. I've never seen it before.
Really? I just saw it for the first time the other day.
Really? Yeah, man. I wonder. That's crazy. Classic, awesome footage. Someone in the chat called him a legend. Yeah, he was like one of the first, except for the dude that in the 1900s in Chicago of Zion, Illinois, he wouldn't let anyone be a part of his town unless you understood the Earth wasn't a ball in space. Like that dude was hardcore back then. He was like, no, none of those lies here. In fact, he actually had a challenge. I think it was $5,000 he was offering for anyone that could prove that Lou was a ball. And
It was in the newspapers.
yeah. This guy who started a town called Zion, Illinois. So I keep getting a question from T. Mylar and the audience, and this is the same type of question he's asked a few times about not just Danny Faulkner from Answers in Genesis, but also Ken Ham, I believe. He asked about him. T, reach out to him for us. They haven't returned my mess. I've already emailed them both. I've tried to I've even tried to recently try to reach out to them with an invitation on their social medias. No reply, no response. But before we even started the show, I tried to email them both. No reply, no response. So guys, if you know them, if you know these people like that run Answers in Genesis, or the not just Ken Ham, but Danny Faulkner is like his main astronomer guy. Astrophysicist. I'm not sure exactly his title, but he's like his main support. And I think a few years back, didn't Danny Faulkner, was he the guy that they came to one of the Flat Earth conferences and kind of caused a stir?
So he did. Danny Faulkner was at the FEIC 2019. Somebody I knew did approach him to instigate a conversation, a debate of sorts, and Danny did a shutdown move where he just became silent and would not even respond. So we don't know. We'll see if he ever comes around to want to discuss these kind of things with other believers. We'd love that to happen.
Yeah, that's what happens when your contract gets threatened because you can't defend your arguments. Yeah, the people that pay your paycheck are gonna stop paying you because you're making their whole organization look look bad. And this is what we see. Actually, Wes, I was talking about this with some family just recently about the idea of, just because a lot of people don't know this, but my wife's uncle works for Answers in Genesis as a contributor, and I've not wanted to like reach out to him. I just spoke to him recently, and I threw in a couple things,
Planted some seeds.
Yeah, they were quickly thrown back at me, but I didn't get into it with him because it wasn't the time or the place. But yeah, it's interesting because like I'm not wanting to press that family, what's the word, connection, if you will.
Sure.
Because I don't want to cause problems with the family. I would
No.
rather just reach out directly through email correspondence through someone like Ken Ham or Danny Faulkner and just say, hey, we'd love to have you in for a loving, polite conversation and just discuss our differences on this topic, you know?
That's right.
But
we might have to check out for season 2. We might have to see if there's anybody we can find that lovingly disagrees that would be would be cool to have a civil conversation with for an episode of Uncommon Ground.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many people we'd love to do that, but it's guys, you have to think about from their perspective. If they're in a position like Mr. Faulkner is, he's employed based off of the heliocentric model. So his family eats food and has a house over their head because of the heliocentric model, directly because like that's what he purports, that's what he writes articles about, that's
Defending.
what he teaches on and defends within their ministry. So guys, you're not just going, it's not just as simple as saying, hey, I'd like to talk to you about something we disagree about in the Bible. For them, it's like, just like when you guys see me do interviews with pastors, you see the ones that are either brave enough or bold, what's the word? The ones that are brave enough to actually come on and have a conversation with me, knowing that we disagree. If you see a lot of them get triggered sometimes, because in order to come to a place of agreement with me would mean they would have to stir up serious issues amongst the association that hired them into whatever church they're pastoring. Same thing with these ministries, these creation ministries like this. So I totally understand. And I'm willing to talk to anybody. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. I think Wes is kind of the same. Like, we'll talk to anybody. It's fine. We'd love to have them on as a guest, talk about our differences. They can explain their side. We'd love to kind of offer some scriptural rebuttals, but ultimately, like, if you know them personally, reach out to them for us, man, to help us out, because they're not returning our calls or messages. So
that's all right. What other questions do we have? I know we're already coming up on 2 hours, believe it or not.
This is wild.
Yeah.
All right. Someone's asking, T Myla is also asking about solar eclipses. Do we want to even address this one right now, or?
The biggest thing I want to say is to wait for Investigating Babylon. That's all I can say. Wait for the rest of Investigating Babylon. You're going to love it. You're going to be introduced to an idea that you've never considered before. And that's all I can really say.
Guys, on my secondary channel, Kingdom Cast, I do a show called a series called Investigating Babylon. I think I'm on part 14 that I'm doing tomorrow night. And once we get to like part 19, 20, and 21, I'll be revealing the idea of solar eclipses and how it pertains to ancient Babylon, the Tower of Babel, the occult, the Day of the Lord. But as far as what we can observe and see right now, solar eclipses, I mean, there in 2017 with the supposed great eclipse that crossed like a seatbelt from Oregon to Mississippi across the United States.
Salem. Yeah.
Supposedly this wonderful 70-mile wide path of totality that crossed the shadow. Not only does the math not work as far as the actual shadow that crossed the surface of the United States during that time, but there were actual, I mean, you have to call them amateur astronomers because they're not employed by a university, but they've been doing it as long as anybody else. They're professional astronomers with professional huge telescopes and professional lenses, $1,000 equipment setups. And they were watching the eclipse the whole time and did not see the body of the moon go in front of the sun. So what does cause a solar eclipse? I'm going to talk about it more in my other channel, but that's why we've kind of held off on doing that particular episode on Uncommon Ground.
Building up to something, building the anticipation.
Yeah, because then like once we talk about some of the things we will talk about with that episode in the future, we can kind of cross-reference another video or series of videos that I'm doing. Will help you get more foundational ideas, because it's one of the biggest deceptions that's out there. And so just thanks for your patience. But
I wish we could say more, but definitely check that episode out when it comes. Nonetheless, I did want to also say in 2017, when that Great American Eclipse happened, I was in Illinois in a place that was very close to the total path of totality. And I also had a fairly clear spot where there wasn't a whole lot of clouds in the sky, and cannot say that I watched the moon approach or leave the scene of that eclipse, that event at all. And I know it's supposedly a new moon where you can't really see it, but it's still there would have been some indication that moon was approaching and leaving the spot of the eclipse, and there just wasn't.
Yeah.
From everything I deduce.
That's true. Last this could be our last question if you like. Noel Zo Young is asking, what's that? Okay.
I've said maybe one more.
What do you think's really going on with SpaceX's commercial spacecraft project?
First thing that comes to mind is just more deception. Billionaires playing with their money, and they're like, oh, I want to be a deceiver too. Mostly is what I gather. What would you say to that, Sean?
Big money, guys. People don't realize that the federal government subsidizes SpaceX to the tune of $4 billion a year. So NASA gets $20 billion a year. SpaceX gets $4 billion a year, and they have less facilities, less payroll. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, it's great business to get in. If you're in that club, because you're not going anywhere. You retrieve the rockets. I don't even think they're retrieving the rockets, by the way. I think a lot of it's just CBI. I think they've gotten better at not spending the money they're getting from the federal taxpayers, because they're increasingly implementing CGI where they can get away with it. And the average person, because the CGI has gotten to a point of PS5 graphics, the average person is like, they don't know the difference when they see a rocket that's falling and then suddenly it just kicks on its engine and swoops back into a stabilization path and lands on this ridiculous craft in the ocean. And they're like, that looked fake as can be. And people are like, yay, look what they did. They saved the booster. It's amazing. Yay. And I'm like, that is fake. Like that looked fake. The physics was bad. Like the guy in 1975 said, yeah, Hollywood's much better at making this kind of stuff.
They really are. Like, if you watch the movie Gravity and then look at any of this SpaceX junk, you're like, man, I think, what's his face? Elon said it best. You can tell it's real because it looks so fake. If it was, we would have better CGI.
That's right. And you know why, in my understanding, my opinion, Wes, is because it's something that's called what's the technical term when you're watching a movie? I had it in my brain when I was starting the sentence and now it left. It's when you're watching a movie and the movie makers do not want you to leave the realm of, what's it called? Where you suddenly realize you're watching a movie. It's they
don't want to break the fourth wall.
No, help me in the comments, guys, if you know what I'm talking about, where you're watching a movie and you step out of the suspension of disbelief. That's what it's called. Okay. Suspension of disbelief. So with movies, there's an inherent suspension of disbelief. The idea that you disbelieve what you're seeing and you critically think and question what you're seeing, that is suspended when you step into a movie theater, because you know what you're watching is fiction.
Right.
But where it's different, when the government says, we're putting men in space with all your taxpayer dollars, you don't have a suspension of disbelief, because that's a luxury afforded to somebody that's saying, what you're watching is fake, and the only way that you're going to enjoy it is if you tell your mind to not think critically about it. That's why sometimes my wife really doesn't want to watch movies with me, because I pick apart all kinds of things in the movies, and I'm like, yeah, here's a plot hole here. Here's why this. What about this guy? This was an undeveloped plot device.
Typical writer.
For that scene. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because I'm a writer. I think about all these things, right? All these little details that go into the story. I'm like, that one was horrible. They forgot about these people over here. What happened with those people? Like, and so it ruins the movie for her at the end, because she's like, I didn't see any of that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like this movie. This movie is trash, because it was written poorly. It was horrible, because I didn't suspend my disbelief and just be like, oh, whatever it shows me, I'll believe it. When it comes to the government saying, hey, we're taking your money, we're building these rockets, and we're going to put people in space, and we need you to believe it because it's real, because we're taking money out of your wallet to do this. This is where your mind, you come into this strange ethical quandary in your heart and your mind, where you're like, well, I have to believe this. This has to be real. Otherwise, I have to be okay with people literally stealing from me. So this is why.
And how many people would have to be in on it, Sean?
It's a famous question, right? You know how many people have to be in it? Not very many. Have you ever have any experience with the military or the government? It's called compartmentalization, and only people at the top know what's really going on. So the other people are just getting a paycheck, and they're willingly there, and they're, rah, 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 I'm here to get this mission accomplished, but they don't always know the end result of the mission or what they're doing to be a part of the project. So yeah, that's why when we look at SpaceX and NASA launches and Blue Origin launches, no one has a suspension of disbelief, because it's inherent already that you believe whatever they're going to show you, because otherwise you have to question the people that rule over you, and that for a lot of people causes internal strife to a degree they're not ready to handle.
Very well said. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I would have to agree.
Did you see another question?
I was just going to look here. Guys, we'll take probably one more. Let's see. Please sell Uncommon Ground on DVD, Miss Rachel. That would be great. We might have to see about doing something like that.
Wes, to that effect, I had someone reach out to me just a few days ago that said she's a YouTube content creator and video editor. She's volunteered to help Kingdom of Context. Actually, she's volunteered to help Kingdom Cast with creating a condensed version of my entire Investigating Babylon series.
Very cool.
So maybe I'll ask her. Maybe she'll want to help us on Uncommon Ground too. If she
take my money, yes.
Right? Yeah.
Eric says his wife hates watching movies with him too, so you're not alone, bro.
Yeah, man. Like people, like my friends used to get so mad, and we'd be watching a movie, and I was just like, I got to shut up. I got to leave the room sometimes because this is so bad. With all the plot holes and bad stuff.
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. Unfair, funfair. When will the FE penny drop on the masses? Does anybody know what penny drop means?
Is it drop?
Penny drop on the mass. What do you think that means?
Basically, when will the masses wake up? Well, they were waking up until 2017, and the algorithms changed. YouTube was called before Congress. What are you going to do about all these people talking about flat Earth? You got to suppress this. It's literally, you can look it up. It's publicized. It's the CEO of YouTube went before Congress and said, we're going to change the algorithms to suppress anything relating to FE talk. So that's why you see our videos, even though Wes's channel is at like 2,500 subscribers, you get 5,000 views on a video, but then it stops. It's not supposed to stop, guys. It's supposed to continue to get right. A video that, think about this for a second, in case you don't understand YouTube world. If you have a channel like Wes's channel, 2,500 subscribers, and he's getting consistently, these Uncommon Ground videos are getting more views than that, that means that people love his content, and he's hitting all of the required algorithm vectors that YouTube wants to see in order to recommend not only his channel to other people to subscribe to, but also the videos in his channel. But they're not doing that. His channel's still growing slowly, very slowly, and then all these videos will just cap out at 4,000 or 5,000 views.
And then they put a Wikipedia little response at the bottom of every one of them.
Yeah, put their little disclaimer at the bottom that this is talking about an archaic, ancient concept that's been debunked. So that's how they suppress it, guys. That's what's going on. The masses were waking up. Literally, I mean, this is what I love. Mark Sargent he looked up what Google used to show were their search results, and he actually would talk about this, how he would daily go onto this little part of Google where it would show you the things that were being searched on Google the most. And in 2016, it was Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, and FE, and things related to the shape of the Earth, guys. Think about that. That's crazy. 19 million searches a day in 2016 for this topic, because people are waking up. Again, like the person 1975 said, I know lots of people that understand this, and offices, administrators, and businesses, but they're in the closet about it because they can't talk about it.
You would have to agree from your experience, wouldn't you? Here in modern times, that people like that. Yep. And I've heard from family members now, after me talking about this for going on 4 years, 5 years now, I've heard plenty of people very much indicate, yeah, I think you're onto something there, Wes, but they won't say, I 100% agree with you and I'm ready to tell the world, but they're closet believers of the truth as well in a lot of cases, but we're working on that. I saw a question from Kyle Sollers, I believe, KYLESOLLARS. He asked, have you done a vid on LORAN, DECA, GPS, and communications? Now, we mentioned a couple of those things, but we definitely went into detail on communications, GPS. in the episode 11, Saddle Loons and Saddle Lies, Saddle Lies and Saddle Loons.
Mm-hmm.
So check that one out, guys. Kyle, that should definitely give you some of what you're looking for on that.
Yeah, I can't see this question.
That's all right. It was kind of far up, but I'm not seeing a whole lot others. Somebody asked about this. I couldn't tell what they're asking exactly about the South and North Star. I already lost it. Basically, it said that there is a stationary pole star of the South Pole. However, when you look at firsthand accounts, I've read some testimonies of people that are looking at these stars. Thank you. And then what we can verify, what's demonstrable, is that the northern star Polaris is directly situated above the North Pole and never moves. For all of recorded history, it's been the North Star and remains stationary above the North.
Right.
However, the southern star constellations, when you go to places like Chile, South America, different places like that, these people, their southern stars change. There is no pole star that remains stationary as the North Star does.
They claim it does. The Southern Cross is what they call it. I think that's what they say it is.
But it rotates around.
Yeah. So that's where I don't know anyone from those places that could help us verify that. But I've heard the same accounts as well. I've heard people claim that, but I've never heard anyone document it. So it could be documented, Wes, but with Google's algorithms, they just may not let the United States and the northern interior plain countries know about it, right? Like they just keep that information out of the search results.
And used to, this was probably from a search result 3 or 4 years ago. If you ask Google, what is the southern pole star? The first result that came up saying, unlike the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere doesn't have a bright pole star. There just doesn't happen to be a bright star, not even a moderately bright star like Polaris, to mark the south celestial pole. The point in this is sky directly over the south pole. So that's what Google was saying. I don't know what it says right now, but I had happened to screenshot an answer back then where they said it doesn't have one.
Miriam New says she lives in Australia, and that's correct. And then also LJ Angelo, I'm not sure where you are from, brother, but he says his Nikon P1000 can't find one.
Very cool.
So that's cool.
Thank you. The lady from Australia. That's awesome. We're so glad to have you watching.
Yeah, so awesome to be watching. She says no North Star, Southern Cross instead, and Orion is the only constellation you can see in both hemispheres. Well, that would make sense because of Orion's placement. But the Southern Cross, I guess the question is, Miriam's New is it consistently in the same spot as a pole star? And I think is it also called Sigma Octantis?
Yes.
Okay. So that's
the Southern Cross is. Mm-hmm.
And she says not from there.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh, she says I live in Cali now, but I think she's
cool.
saying
She used to live in
Southern Cross is not from there.
All right. No worries.
Yeah, I think
I'm definitely inspired to do an episode on the stars and talk about how you can only see them from certain latitudes because of perspective, and that'd be cool.
Okay. I think LJ Angelo is saying that he lives in that southern plain hemisphere as well, and he can't find one that's P1000. So
right on. Great camera, 125 times digital zoom, amazing stuff. You can zoom in on that moon, and it feels like you're right there on it, like if that were possible. With the P1000. Great stuff. But what do we got to talk about here before we end the show? Because we got some stuff coming up. I know I've mentioned last episode, just one more reminder, here in 10 days, August 14th, if you live in Central Texas or anywhere around where you're willing to travel, you know anybody wanting to get baptized, or if you yourself are wanting to baptize, I would ask that you say a prayer for me, looking for the river levels to go down for us so that we can effectively have that event. But I know God's going to make it happen. If y'all know anybody, like I say, that wants to attend, email me, wesblaze@hotmail.com, and you can get some information on that so that you could maybe come out and hang out on August 14th in Mineral Wells, Texas, is where I'll be, hopefully on the Brazos River. Nonetheless, that's coming up in this next week. And then what else are we working on, Sean?
Well, we've been invited from Chris and Liz Bailey to take on the World 21 in Ohio. That's going to be August 20th through the 22nd, and Wes and I are going to be traveling to that. So we're actually going to be preparing our presentations. We have multiple presentations that we're doing for that conference for those 3 days, and so we are not going to be doing an episode next week because we're going to be working on our presentations, and then the following week we'll be traveling. And this, of course, is in addition to all of my regular videos that I'm doing on my other 2 channels. So this is where we're not going to have an Uncommon Ground next week, but actually, I guess the next 2 weeks, right?
However, I will say that it's my goal to do some content for while we're at the conference.
Yes.
I would absolutely love to sit down with a couple people, get some chats with Sean and a couple people, and maybe just do a live stream where we just go around, hang out with some people, and let y'all check out what we're doing there. That'd be great. So look forward to that probably in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm excited about that too, to talk with folks about these concepts and ideas, not just about our presentation, but just to chat and hang out, and they can also see that we're regular people. In fact, it's funny that you even have to say that. We have T. Myler asking if I have family in Freemasonry. You get these all the time, right? It's hilarious. No, in fact, T. Myler, go subscribe to my Kingdom Cast channel tomorrow night. I'm actually doing an episode as a part of my Investigating Babylon series where I'll be exposing and revealing things within Freemasonry as it traces back to ancient Babylon. We even see it in scripture, and it's specifically forbidden according to Yahweh. So I'm actually going to be explaining a whole bunch of that fun stuff tomorrow night on Kingdom Cast, part 14 of Investigating Babylon series. Title of the episode is called The CIA. What's it called? The CIA. I'm going blank.
I'll pull it up, but what time are you expecting to schedule that for?
That's going to be tomorrow night at 9 o'clock my time, Mountain Standard Time. So it's 10 o'clock Central Standard Time.
Central word.
Yeah. So I'm going to be going over a whole bunch of stuff. No, I don't have any family for Masonry. I wouldn't, and I would tell them to get out of it if they were, because it's a cult and it's not cool.
CIA, Jesuits, and military experiments.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot the Jesuits was in there. So that's I think you guys will really, really enjoy that.
I'm excited for it. I'll be there.
But otherwise, guys, we really thank you for being here. We are excited that we're going to be off for 2 weeks, but when we come back, we're going to have so much fun content. Not just are we going to pick up our regular shows, but we're going to have get to review some of the awesome stuff we get at the conference, and I think that's going to be really cool.
It will.
So, yeah,
absolutely. If y'all are liking what we're doing, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, you're blessed by it, you want to help others be blessed by it, you want us to get better at what we do, and you want to bless us, we would love if you would check out our Patreon account. There's a monthly contribution that you could set up there. Also, we have PayPal, and we would just we would be very blessed and grateful for any contributions and support that you guys would like to provide. Nonetheless, we also, what was I going to say? Go ahead.
LJ Angelo, again, I don't know a lot of these people. People at least once or twice a week, people will email me and ask me to debate somebody. I appreciate it. I appreciate the vote of confidence, guys, and I'm willing to talk with anyone, but I don't know half of these people and they don't know me. So if you do know them and you want to recommend that we get together, that's how some of the debates you've seen us do in the past was actually set up by viewers, because they had a personal relationship with these people and got the introduction. So
right on.
You just have to remember, these are real people out there, and they're just not willing to get on camera with anybody. So they need an introduction. They need to feel comfortable. And so, yeah, if you know that guy, you want me to talk to him, you're welcome to. Someone else also about Lighthouse. I just want to give a quick brief that they are in the next few weeks, they're going into beta, and that's a huge process, guys. If anyone's ever developed a website, you know about beta. Like they talked about in the past, they had to transfer what they were doing from Amazon Web Services and going over to a different company, so they can't be
when we saw what happened to Parler, right?
Yeah, Parler was taken down by Amazon Web Servers for several weeks, and it was a huge hit to Parler. They don't want that happening to them. Even though Lighthouse is not even like Parler. I mean, it's totally different. It's revolutionary. It's not unlike anything out there. But just to be safe, they wanted to take their time, and as a result of them taking their time, guys, they've done some even more features in the last 6 months that they hadn't had ready initially. So it's even going to be better. So all the interviews that you guys saw me do 6-8 months ago, talking about Lighthouse and showing some of the features and functionality, it's even better than that now. And they're going to be releasing it, as they go through beta and do all the testing that's appropriate. That's usually a process anywhere from a month or two before that's done. So this is how all websites work. You go through a beta testing process to make sure all the buttons click in the right places, all the back-end connections happen properly, and it takes time to get the bugs out so it's ready for the masses to be used. And so this is a site that's huge. It's going to be competing with Amazon, YouTube,
worth the wait.
Facebook, Twitter. Like it's a massive site, guys. So please be patient and pray for them. Pray for them that that Father guides their hands and allows them to come to market fully. So
#better is still coming.
Better is still coming.
It is. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, brother. But otherwise, that's all we got for you guys tonight. I hope you enjoyed the hangout. Hope you got to get some good answers in for our Q&A. But We want to end off on a song from our brother. We got Mike Maranatha featuring J.O. on their song from Pray Against the Machine. Great album. Check it out if you haven't, over at Mike Maranatha. He recently put 2 of our songs up on the songs that I've made with him up on iTunes. They're on, you go to Facebook Music. If you go to make a story, you want to put some West Blaze and some Mike Maranatha in your story on Facebook, you can search West Blaze or Mike Maranatha, either one. You'll pull up Don't Let Me Go and Thief in the Night. Those are now on iTunes. My first songs ever on iTunes. That'll be cool. Cool.
I'm gonna make some TikToks now.
Yeah. Right on. Good deal. I didn't know you could use it in TikTok. What's up? But so all that's available. But our brother has a song here with J.O. called Narrow Path that I really enjoyed. One that we didn't get to play the day that he was on. So we're going to end off with that. We say shalom to you all. Bless God and may he bless you. And much love.
See you guys next time.
On that narrow path, staying on that narrow path. On the broad way to hell, they living very fast. On that narrow path, staying on that narrow path. Slow it down, stick around and get the last laugh. On that narrow path, on that narrow path. On the broad way to hell, they living very fast. On that narrow path, on that narrow path. On that narrow path, that narrow path. I ain't turning back, I can't step off of this path. If I did, know that I'll be back like in a flash. Jesus got my bag, he the first and the last. You can't tell me nothing, I got 10 years off up in this bag. Brought me back to life, now I'm living right. Shake these demons off, they try to take me down at night. Gotta keep the faith, draw the sword and fight the fight. Walk on water, you can follow if you wanna meet the Christ. Yeshua, I'm a Shiach, he the only way. They say that he ain't coming, but he on the way. And when he does, a lot of people run away, cause they don't wanna face the things that they put off up in his place. On that narrow path, staying on that narrow path. On the broad way to hell, they living very fast. On that narrow path, staying on that narrow path. Slow it down, stick around and get the last laugh. On that narrow path, on that narrow path. On the broad way to hell, they living very fast. On that narrow path, on that narrow path. On that narrow path, that narrow path.
Man, it's late in the game, but he healed the pain in my lane while I swang in his rain, claiming a name. Narrow path, that's rugged terrain. See, I was drugged and insane till his spirit came and a message tamed everything in my brain. Been changed, man, that it ain't the same. Not big tuck, but it's not a stain. Like big bucks, man, he paid the price with a sacrifice. Spirit slain and the old me laid the ice in the grave. Now praise the Christ, and I follow law. Obedience to Father, y'all. Don't care what y'all be saying, cause I don't follow y'all. Free from blame, no chains, the sin drain. New membrane, no shame in me game. No Christian, I'm a Nazarene. Not serene, but I got his peace. Whole thing, yeah, not a piece. And I'm sold out in this praying, it's not gonna cease, yeah.
On that narrow path, staying on that narrow path. On the broad way to hell, they living very fast. On that narrow path, staying on that narrow path. Slow it down, stick around and get the last laugh. On that narrow path, on that narrow path. On the broad way to hell, they living very fast. On that narrow path, on that narrow path. On that narrow path, that narrow path.
Narrow is the gate, and difficult is the way which leads to life. And there are few who find